Hello and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Ryan. We do all sorts of carpentry projects, small engine work, stuff like that. Today, I want to get a fence built for my bandsaw here. I've been needing a fence for a long time and just haven't had the time to deal with it until now. So I'm just going to be sort of winging it. I don't have a plan drawn out or anything. I'm just going to kind of, go by ear and use this is a compass, and I'm just going to use that as kind of like a template to make a track that's going to ride in here, and then from there I'm going to build up a fence from off of that. But the track is going to be the hardest part. Once that's built, the rest will be easy. So we're going to get started on that now, and hopefully this won't take too long. Alright, so like I said, I'm going to be kind of making this up as I go along. Never built one of these before, so I'm just going to kind of figure it out as we go. The depth of that table for that bandsaw is 12 inches, so I'm going to start with this piece of poplar here. This is a strip that it's kind of a waste cutoff piece, and I save a lot of my wood, and even stuff like this, that you wouldn't think would be worth saving is always worth saving. So it's a piece of poplar, which is a hardwood. And this is what I'm going to use to build that little strip that's going to go in that track. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with cutting 12 inches because that's the length that I need it to be. And then we're going to work with it from there. And I've got plenty here, obviously, if I need it. So the first strip, may work out, may not, I don't know. But, if the first strip gets messed up and we got to get another one cut, I've got plenty to work with here, so it's not a problem. Now that that's cut to length, we need to get the width sorted out. So as you can see, it's wider than the track, and so I need to get the table saw and rip this to where it's going to fit in the track. And then also the track has a groove in there to where once we get this ripped to size, it'll have to have a notch on each side put into it so that it fits in there. So, but that'll be after. Let's go ahead and get this ripped on the table saw and get that done. I figured I'd show you what I used for that. So since that's such a small, thin strip, I mean the distance between the fence and the table saw and the blade is way too small to use a regular, like here's a push stick, and it's way too small for that to even fit between that blade and the fence. And also this push stick is too big, like it wouldn't have been able to push this little tiny piece. So what I have is just a piece of 1/2-inch plywood that I had double-sided tape that I put 2 pieces of 150 grit sandpaper on, and so I use that to push it through, and that fits pretty well in between there. So that's all I used. That's why I used this. So now you see that fits in that groove pretty much perfectly, but it gets stopped right there, and that's because there's a lip right here and right here, and that's to make sure that this stays down in the groove. So we're going to have to notch out these corners. And so the best way I can think to do that is probably going to be on the router. Could possibly do it on a table saw, but it's I think it'd be a little bit safer on the router to do that because it's such a small, thin piece, you know. So I'm going to get the router set up, get the bit changed out, and we can get that done. Part of the fun of doing workshop projects is engineering solutions to problems you didn't know you had. So today I had a problem with my router table, and the problem was, here's the bit that we're going to be using to cut that notch on each corner, and this is as far down as the router can possibly go, and the bit is as far down as it can go in the holder. And so the problem with that is that's way too tall. As you can see, that's taller than this piece of trim here, and we only need a tiny amount taken out. And so since that's the lowest that this can possibly go, I had to figure out a solution. And what I came up with is this scrap piece of 1/4 inch plywood here, and then I took it to my belt sander and just sanded out this arch here so it just clears the bit. And now it's set to the depth that we need, which is not much. So we are going to see how this works, and first of all I got to get this clamped down to the table, and then we will run this through on each edge, and then we'll see if that fits over there in the slot in the bandsaw. So let's do it. A little bit tight going that way, but the other way is good. So I could probably sand it up just a touch, but yeah, that works really well. So now that we've got that piece for the slot figured out, I was digging for some other poplar wood, and I found this piece down here, which just so happens to be the exact length that we need. It's 12 inches. It's the same length as the piece we just cut. So see, if I line it up here, it goes all the way to the end down there. And so what I'm thinking is I'm going to attach the slotted piece to the edge of this board once I clean this board up some, and make sure that's as close to perfect as possible. And then we will be attaching this piece. Well, I'll attach these two pieces together first. So this piece is going to go back. I'm going to have to cut it. It's too long right now, but it's going to be back on this side, and it's this perfect width already. I just need to cut the length of it down, and so it's going to attach to this board, and it'll look just like that. And so that way this can be clamped down here just to add extra support whenever I'm ripping anything, and then this piece will be pretty much good to go as far as bracing up anything against this when I'm cutting. So this can be the depth here can be adjusted any number of ways. Like I could just put a piece of wood in here, like, you know, here. This is just an example, but I could brace this piece of wood up against the fence that's solid, and then make my cut here. And so it could be used like that, or I could build in, you know, a second fence piece or whatever to here, but I think that's not really needed for now. I just want to get this piece done so that I have a solid fence I can use to prop up against. So I'm going to get this board cut to length, and then we're going to clean up these two boards and get them nice and decent to where there's like no burrs and stuff on them like this, so that we have a good piece to work with, because everything needs to be as close to perfect as possible when we're lining all this up, just so that you're using the fence to cut stuff and you're wanting it to be straight, so it needs to be as close as possible to straight. Alright, I've got everything mocked up after that cut, and I sanded up the pieces like I said I would, and so this is pretty much exactly what it would be, how it would be once it's glued together and everything. So that's pretty straight, looks good. So what we're going to do now is we're going to pin these two together with some glue and some probably brad nails, and then once those are good, hopefully everything will still be square and everything like that, and then we'll have to get this piece glued on and pinned on here. That'll be probably the difficult part there, without trying not to split this piece because it's so thin. It's possible that it will split, but that's why we're going to try really small, tiny nails. So let's get that going, and hopefully it works out. Okay, so you probably couldn't see very well. It was just kind of hard to film that. So what I did was I was using Q-tips to clean up any glue that's in that groove, because basically connecting the board here, or the main part of the fence to that little channel piece, it needs to be flush, and there can't be like any glue dried up in that groove or anything, otherwise it won't be able to fit back over there correctly. So I was cleaning that up really well and making sure it was cleaned out. It might require a little bit of sanding, but hopefully not. And then what I did was I used little teeny tiny 5/8 inch brad nails in that, and I turned the compressor way down on the pressure. It's at 70 psi right now. So, because those are very tiny nails, and you don't want to put a lot of pressure behind that, otherwise you run the risk of splitting the wood. And so those drove in perfect, no splits. So now I just got to wait for this to dry, and hopefully I've looked at it and it looks pretty square and everything, and it's everything's lined up correctly. So it should hopefully, once this dries in an hour, it should hopefully just slide right in here and work perfectly. So let's hope and see how it turns out. And one thing that I forgot to mention was you do want a couple fasteners on this, and those are there pretty much exclusively to hold the piece in place so that you can glue and clamp, because whenever you go to glue and clamp, it slides around the little piece of wood. I mean, any wood really that you're gluing and clamping together, it tends to slide around, especially if you put any kind of pressure on it, like clamping pressure. So those are there to lock it in place so that you can clamp it down and get even pressure on everything and get it glued down really well. Otherwise, like I said, it's just not gonna play well, and it won't work out. So that's why you do still need those two fasteners there, but two is good. That's plenty good enough for this. Like I said, that's not holding this on. Like by the time this glue dries, the glue is really the main thing that's holding this on. But we do need an extremely good glued connection all through here, because that's going to be the little tiny strip. That's all that's holding this whole fence on there. Really, you're going to be pressing against it to cut stuff. So you want that to be a very good connection, which is why you need the clamps to clamp it all down and make sure you're getting a really solid glue and the whole length of it. So again, that's why you've still got to have these two little brad nails or whatever you're using, but that's the easiest, is brad nails. We've had a few hours to dry, so let's go ahead and remove these clamps and see how we made out. Yeah, it's a little tight on the back, on that back track. So if something's hitting somewhere. Unfortunately, it's like extremely difficult to know exactly where, because I do know the track itself obviously was good, but during the glue up we may have had something slightly shift. It's also difficult to do this one-handed. Let me get you in the stand and I can try to finagle this. Alright, so I'm pretty sure I know what's catching us, and it's going to be some of this glue that's in here. Even though I cleaned that out pretty well with the Q-tips, it's still probably squeezed out a little bit while it was drying. So I will get the chisel and try to chisel some of that out of there, because I'm pretty sure that that's what's catching us. Alright, now I've got it. It's a tad bit tight, but it's still plenty easy enough to slide in and out. So all I did was I got some of the glue out. There was some spots of glue in the groove that I got out with the chisel. And then I just sanded the bottom track here and this bottom piece here that runs along the table. so that just made it a little bit smoother to go across. But yeah, that's perfect. So that's all I need for now. In the future, I might build onto this fence and make it adjustable to where it can come out. But for now, this is more than good enough. This is perfect because this is going to be something I can at least build off of if I need to, rip anything or do anything straight on here. This is going to be so much more useful. This thing is practically useless for bandsaw. This is like a miter gauge, like on your table saw. If you don't have any other tools, it's better than nothing. But the miter saw or the table saw will just get you a much better cut than the bandsaw as far as that goes. So this fence will be so much better to have now, and it was just a quick build. And so in the future, like I said, we may improve this fence some, but for now this is exactly what I needed. So we're going to call this good, and thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.